Society. I would like to welcome everyone to the November meeting of the Fort Worth Astronomical Society. It's my pleasure to be up here tonight. I'm the president of the club. And before I came tonight, I checked out what the National Weather Service forecast is for December, January, and February. And because of the situations, they're thinking it's going to be slightly warmer and with a little bit less precipitation, which is not very good for our moderate drought conditions, but it's very good for astronomy because the nights are clear and a little bit warmer. And plus it gets darker, so you'll have many opportunities to get out in the next 3 months and use your equipment for astronomical purposes. Next slide. One moment as we work on technical difficulties, technical issues. All right, so I know there's some unfamiliar faces in the audience today, so I'd like to welcome all of our visitors. And if you agree, we would like for you to tell us your name, how you found us, and then why you came to the meeting, what you hope to get out of it. So, David, I know you're a visitor today, so.
I'm David Lopez, and I got an invite from Homer to come and join, and I've always liked astronomy and want to see what the society is like.
Oh, fantastic. I think you'll get a good feel for what we are tonight. Anyone else as a visitor? Yes, sir. Very good. Welcome back. Yes, sir.
I'm Tyler Dollarhide. I have like a very old-made telescope since I was a kid, and now that I'm old enough to make money, have the knowledge, I'm starting to actually use it. It's like I recently got an Astro camera to hook up to it.
Very good. Very good. Well, you'll be glad to know that the organization has a very strong astrophotography group. And they've made all the mistakes that you're about to make. And they'll be more than happy to help you work through those problems. Any other visitors tonight? Back there.
My name is Joe Allen, and although he didn't know I was going to come here, I'm a friend of Chris Ashford. And he told me about it a few months ago, and so I finally got interested and finally showed up for a meeting.
Oh, fantastic. You're welcome. Glad you're here. Next slide. Oh, we have one more? Josh. Oh, there you go.
I was hoping to sign up pretty soon because I saw there was a Christmas party coming up. No, but honestly, I moved to Gottlieb last year, and the skies have been absolutely beautiful out there, more so than what they were in Fort Worth. So I had to bring out my old telescope and was trying to get everything set up, and I started looking online on local groups, and I had no idea that this was actually something. And so I was like, man, this is society that I want to be a part of and start learning and just surrounding myself with like-minded people. So I have really loved astronomy. I took it in college, and now I just want to be able to get back out there and start being able to get my family involved. But basically trying to associate and fellowship with everybody here. So it's nice to meet everyone, and if there's anything I can do to help anybody out, you know, just give me a call, let me know.
Very good. Welcome. So Christian, why don't you write this down? It'd be a new slogan for the club. This is actually something. So this is cool. Yeah. Yes, that's a great idea. So we have a bunch of new members since we met in October. Are any of these people here tonight? Jerry Smith. Hey. David Morgan. I'm glad he finally re-upped. That was good. Anyone else? How about online? Anybody's folks online? All right. Well, when you get to see them, be sure to welcome them to the club. All right. Oh, a few more slides for me. Thanks. So, no, ready to go to the next slide. So about FWAS, to give you an idea of what we are, we were founded in 1949. Thought to be one of the oldest amateur astronomy clubs in the United States, which is pretty interesting. We currently have roughly 370 members, and we're a pretty large astronomy site. You'll find out that we have a wide range of experience that'll help you with astrophotography, and we got a bunch of people that enjoy visual astronomy as well, to help you get the most out of the night sky. And we're willing to help. And if you were to post a question on the e-group forum, you'll get several answers pretty quick. And then we're a nonprofit organization, so we always have our hand out for gifts and whenever you have a chance to pay it forward. Next slide. So our resources, one of our primary resources is our dark sky site out at Rising Star Observing Area. So our site is positioned between Rising Star and Cross Plains, Texas. It's about 120 miles from this building, roughly a 2-hour drive. Closer yet, though, in Keene, Texas, we have access to the Thompson Observatory. If you're interested in exploring what the Thompson has as a dark sky site, contact Bob Circus, and he'll make those arrangements for you. We also have club telescopes. We have a handful of Dobbs out at Rising Star, a nice collection of Schmidt Cassiograins, and then the club has also been gifted through donations some high-quality refractors. So if any of those scopes are of interest to you, you can go out to Rising Star to experience that technology. We then have a membership handbook that we're always updating, and it helps you with the rules of the club and how to get around and how to participate in the e-forum and other items. And then in terms of online resources, this is what we have in terms of our website, fortworthastro.com. It's constantly being updated or will be updated. We have a Facebook page at Fort Worth Astro. A YouTube page is Fort Worth Astronomical Society. And then our e-group forum is our Fort Worth Groups group, as in Maine. And then we do have a special interest group dedicated to astrophotography. So you can see that astrophotography theme working out. Okay? Oh, we're going to jumping right into this. Great. So, Bob, talk to us about the remote astronomy from Rising Star.
You want to just share the screen? I'm just going to shout. Thank you, Bill. So I'm going to talk about, the title of this presentation is A Vision of the Sky from, Remote EAA from Rising Star. And we're not only going to talk about it, we're going to do it right now. So as you guys know, as soon as Chris gets the... Do you want the presentation then? Is that what you're hitting at? Just a second. You need it? Okay, so when we acquired the dark side a couple years ago, we had a vision of what we wanted to do with it. But basically, this is what I thought, or what I think our vision is. A place to call our own, because we've only been kicked out of about 4 places lately in the last 5 years, right? We needed dark skies, and it's Bortle 2. We wanted pads, power, internet, which we have. We wanted a facility where we could store our equipment, which we have a truckload. In addition to what Bruce mentioned, we have a small binocular out there. The binocular is 14.5 inches times 2, and I've actually started refurbishing it this past weekend. So we have that building out there to store things where you can camp overnight if you need to, and eventually if we need to have meetings or sessions out there, we can do that. We have 2 observatories out there. The Noble Observatory, which is named after our founder, and we need to finish building that out. My goal is to get that done by the end of the year. And the McCatherine Observatory, which we finished fitting out. We wanted to do that to get a really good understanding of what we need to do in the Noble, because Jim's observatory was working before he moved it out to Rising Star. So I'm going to briefly talk about what is remote electronically assisted astronomy, why is it important, and how does it work? Magic, smoke, and mirrors. Okay, basically, it's viewing deep sky objects through a telescope with cameras. We capture the data and we stack relatively short exposures. Today we're going to stack 30-second exposures. We're going to use Nina to capture and SharpCat to stack and render. The results are displayed on a computer in real time. To me, remote equals live stream or YouTube channel. At the end of the day, it's all about my favorite word, outreach. Okay? Advantages, we get a clearer image, more vibrant view. What do you get? You get color, right? We can't really see color through the telescope. It can mitigate light pollution through filters, but a rising star, Bortle 2 skies, not that much of a problem out there. In our improved outreach, on December 21st and January 3rd, we're doing indoor star party at Cook Children's Hospital. The 21st, they have a winter solstice program, so they're going to do that program, and we're going to dovetail at the back end of that. And then on January 3rd, they've asked us to do another. We've been trying to do a program out at Rising Star for a year, and this is going to be brilliant. We're going to be able to use this for our Young Astronomer program that we do out in Bedford. And Christian, when you want to branch out, you've got technology to help you. Okay? Schools, you name it. So it's a tremendous opportunity for us. So, like I said, why is it important? Outreach, outreach, outreach. We've had some communications from other clubs. We'll be able to collaborate with them, maybe doing image data collection and sharing. And it enhances member opportunities. Rising Star's a hike. From my home, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. And with remote astronomy, you know, once folks learn how to use the technology, we can schedule star parties where you don't have to leave your house, and you can take advantage of our dark sky site and not have to be there. Okay. How does it work? This is a very rudimentary kind of diagram. Basically, you have some folks looking on the internet at our YouTube channel. And so this is just a diagram of what's in our dome here. So we got a C11, big CGX mount in there. We have dew heaters. We have a web camera that'll allow us to see what's going on, but we have a problem with the Ethernet cable. So it's not working. And, but basically, we get on, we have a new server inside the astronomy building, and we remote into it, and from there we drive the observatories. So, so what's going to happen next? Well, if this works, the dome is going to open. It's actually already opened. Oh, except for you can't see that. All right, sorry about that. So the dome will open, and this is that's an image of Jim's observatory. It's very crowded in there, and so you don't want to be in there when things swinging around. So tonight we're going to look at these 8 or 9 objects. We're going to do 30-second subs times 20 each. So I don't think we're going to get through all of them unless we want to stay here and do that. But this is pretty much the order we're going to go. And Mr. Velvet Voice is going to talk about each image as it's rendering.
Isn't this cool? Yeah, this is the game-changing stuff right here. So this is like a life rehearsal for what we're going to be doing at Cook Children's Hospital. And I don't know how fast or slow to talk, so we're going to be kind of working it all out together.
I'm going to slew and center and then just go ahead and kick it.
No, I can't. You don't want that.
We want to be, I'm going to close that.
So my approach to doing this in a presentation format, like doing it at Cook Children's Hospital, we'll be talking about the club, we'll be talking about our mission, but I want to get right into talking about the wonders of our universe, and to be able to go into a hospital where there are kids that may not even be able to get outside, and to be able to see this stuff, it's good stuff. It's something we're quite honored to be able to deliver, and yeah, just give them what to look at. Also, that there be an actual telescope on a mount in front of the audience, so that when he's moving his telescope at our dark site, this telescope in front of the audience is going to be moving so that they can see where in the sky the telescope is pointing. And the bigger idea is to have the planetarium software that he's using to actually move the scope projected on here. So you're not just seeing where the telescope is pointed in the sky, but you're able to see where in the sky the telescope is pointed relative to everything else in the sky, and to just watch the motion see the telescope moving. They can come up before and after the presentation and ask questions, check out the hardware. Really neat, interactive experience we want to give them.
Technical issues.
So, welcome to astrophotography. You'll want to get used to this.
Oh, I see what you got.
It's always a good night when you can plug everything in, set everything up, and turn everything on, and it just works.
How often has that happened for you?
Say what?
How often has that actually happened?
I try to set myself up for success until Windows decides it just really needs an update. That's always a great start to an evening. So what Jim and Catherine has is a clamshell observatory. So instead of having something with a slot that comes up and the dome rotates and stuff, basically the whole thing opens up in a like a clamshell, and it opens up, and I don't know if it rotates. I don't know if clamshells rotate or not. You don't think they do? Like they just open up and now you're just kind of just in a space with open walls.
This one does not rotate.
Okay, gotcha, thank you. Well, tell us about what you got on the rig. Bob showed us a picture of it, but tell us what hardware you're working with out there.
So this is an old Astrohaven dome that replaced my previous dome. It started out at University of North Texas. It was probably one of the early Astrohaven domes, and wound up with the physics chair at North Texas. And one went to Arizona and the other one went to my backyard to replace my previous dome. Get the bugs worked out of this because there's a lot of failure modes and it just takes a while to work everything out. And if you can't walk out in the backyard and fix it, you've got to develop these recovery methods of what's the worst that can happen and how am I going to fix it from 100 miles away, and will the dome close when it starts to rain? There's a lot of things that go wrong, so it takes some time to work those bugs out. The equipment in there is a C11. The guide scope is a William Optics 80, and
Oh, shit,
that
I'm
gives
looking
me
at the wrong.
the pixel scale I need to operate at those long focal lengths. I sometimes operate at f2 with Hyperstar.
Rising star.
In general, I'm at f7, and then for planetary, I'll go up to
We want to
f20
clone?
with it. So I'll still have to go to Rising Star to change filters or change cameras, imaging cameras. But otherwise, I got to the point where I operated it for about 4 months without touching it, and thought, okay, we're ready to go to Rising Star. And of course, as soon as we go to Rising Star, 3 or 4 things decide they don't want to work. So there's some sorting out to do there. And we've still got another day or another night to really get it back up to speed. But the dome is a clamshell. Both those shells open. It's rigid fiberglass, seals up pretty nice and tight, and it's got two motors instead of one, so there's a little complexity there. But things have been running really good lately. It gets to the point where we can't cause anything to happen that we can't recover from. So we'll see how that goes.
Right on, thank you.
And we're starting the data collection for the Helix.
Nice. Okay, and you said 30-second exposures.
Yep.
So for those that don't know what live stacking is, basically the image, there you go. So that's our first official remote astronomy image.
I gotta tell you, I'm jumping for joy. So, we'll do 20, 30 seconds of this, and then we'll move on after Mr. Phil talks about the helix.
Right on, yeah. I've got
And
some notes
this
with
is
some
a
fun
work in pro-
facts.
We're figuring how to do this. We do have a dark and a flat frame, but we're still trying to figure out how all this works.
Gotcha. So we're calibrating live, so that's cool. Yeah, with live stacking, basically you've got you're basically stacking images, and every subsequent image that's stacked on is basically aligned. So they do a star align. The software does a star align with the existing image, and it's basically just stacking it. The more that you stack, the more that every pixel averages out into its accurate values. So, in other words, the more that you stack, the more that you're actually getting true data. You're kind of averaging out the effects of seeing, and you're getting more definition with the objects. So let's talk about this one. So this is the Helix Nebula. This is in the constellation of Aquarius. It has been recently, I've heard of this in the last few years, as people are starting to call it the Eye of Sauron. For all you ring enthusiasts out there, Messier, Charles Messier, who was a comet hunter, he was using his little 4-inch refractor made out of, who knows what quality that glass was. It probably wasn't great, but he was successful at finding comets. He saw this thing, and no, I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry. Told you this was a rehearsal, right? Okay, so Helix Nebula, it's also known as NGC. I'll talk about Charles Messier later. It's also known as NGC 7293, and it's planetary nebula, as you can see. The shape of it, what we're seeing is we're actually seeing the end of a football, as if we were looking at a football that was pointed at us. That blue part right there is, they call it a prolate spheroid. And it is it's the same structure as the Ring Nebula. So we've got and of course Elon Musk had to jump in there. So we're looking at the pointed end of a blue football, and then that outer shell is hydrogen gas that was basically expelled while the star was dying. So the star in question is this little central star right here. It's still dying. It is not a white dwarf yet, but it will be. And it's actually an enormously energetic star that's letting off radiation that makes this whole thing glow right here. Yes, sir. Yeah. Welcome to these days. That's okay. It's all a part of it. It's a space thing. So, yeah, and it's about 5 to 6 light years in diameter. So, you ready for the next object? M2. So this is what I brought up Charles Messier for. He couldn't resolve the stars. M2, as you will see, is a globular cluster. And with his telescope, bless his heart, in the middle of Paris, he could not resolve the stars, and he thought it was a nebula. And so that was basically the idea until William Herschel resolved the stars. And you actually see that William Herschel apparently seemed to be the first person to have a telescope to resolve the stars, because whenever you read about Charles Messier and his mistaken identity of globular clusters as nebulae, you always read a little bit further, and there's William Herschel resolving the stars years later with probably with definitely a much better telescope. So one of the questions that I asked when we were kind of figuring out what kind of objects we were gonna feature is, well, okay, what kind of telescope are we looking at? What is the focal length of it? What sort of field of view are we dealing with? So, the focal length and any other lensing and the size of the camera sensor really gives us an idea of what sort of field of view we're looking at in the sky. So it's based on that field of view that we pick our objects. Now, if we were to point this telescope to the Andromeda galaxy, you may not even recognize it, because we'd be looking at the core. The Andromeda galaxy is like, 6 moon diameters wide in the sky, and this thing's a much tighter shot than that. So we'd be basically blown out by the core of the nebula. So bigger things like M33 was out. Name your big nebula, North American Nebula, or anything like that. It's going to be too big for the shot. So we had to go through with each object that we kind of figured was the right object. Bob and I kind of both did it independently, and we ended up with about the same list. And this was it. How you doing, Bob?
2 seconds and we'll have our first.
All right. I need to start using Nina.
Just gotta wait for
So this guy, it's about 150,000 stars in M2. It's also in Aquarius. It's about 175 light years in diameter. And it's one of the oldest known globular clusters in the Milky Way. It resides in the Milky Way's galactic halo, which is basically a remnants, because there are several halos. It's remnants of galactic collisions and acquisitions of the past. And it's one of those science names. It's this M2 is actually a part of the Gaia sausage. Are y'all familiar with the Gaia sausage? So the Gaia sausage is basically a remnant of an acquired dwarf galaxy that got eaten, and now it's just a really big sausage with an old globular cluster in it. This is about 13 billion old stars. Very old cluster. I love live rehearsals. So what Bob said about outreach for those that are new to the club or visiting tonight, outreach is a really big deal to us. Basically, it is our way of being able to educate the public on astronomy. And that consists of star parties, and it consists of literature, and it consists of, visual displays, and interaction with schools and churches and public, libraries. So there you go. That's M2 right there. So that's another thing is, making the camera more sensitive. You want to go to the next object? All right.
Next object's gonna be, quick vote, M27 or SH2101, which is the tulip. The dumbbell or the tulip? Dumbbell.
Got to see the dumbbell, right?
By acclamation, I guess it's gonna be the dumbbell.
That's right. The dumbbell was actually the first planetary nebula discovered, and it's certainly one of the brightest in the sky. So yeah, we'll probably be looking at, and let me switch. Jim, you said that we're running at a gain of 90?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Are we binning at all, or is it one by one?
No, it's one-to-one binning.
Yeah.
It's 071 MC Pro camera, so it's an ASPC sensor.
Mm-hmm.
No binning, the default gain, and orange high color. That's why we're seeing color instantly here.
Right. See, I'm kind of wondering what maybe a 2x2 binning might do to speed up the acquisition or just get a deeper exposure. But we're also looking at we're looking at the idea of Bob's RASA, which is a astrograph, and it's got it's got a shorter, it's a faster scope. And so the shorter the focal length, the faster, and they call it fast because it's the faster that it's actually collecting photons, which is what we are trying to collect.
Question,
Yes, sir.
what causes the brightness at the top and the bottom?
That's amp glow. It's from the sensor being hot.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
It's
you.
called amp glow.
Yeah, so it's the heat of the electronics that's processing the captured data into digital form or something like that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we've only got, we're only using, there are a couple of different types of calibration frames, and we usually have lots of them, but we're only using one. And when I was testing this at home, it seemed like one was good enough, but clearly it's not. So it's just a learning process for us.
We just need a snapshot, and you can do a lot better.
Yeah, we can do better. But to be able to see this live and to be actually have this is it interactive, the idea is how quickly can we get a good enough image to move things along without losing our audience or, without losing our audience. So blow up that dumbbell for us. Can you get a full screen of that? Or is that kind of us?
This is just placeholder. It's gonna
Oh, no worries.
be quick.
Yeah. I think it was John Herschel, William Herschel's son, who thought it looked like a dumbbell, and that's where the name came from, if I'm not mistaken. This is in the constellation of Vulpecula, the fox, and in the sky, it's about 1/4 the diameter of the moon's apparent size. Yeah, so that's what we're seeing. It's actually pretty big in the sky. It's about 1.1 to 1.4 light years in diameter. And it's, once again, it's actually thought to have the same structure as the Helix Nebula, which is that prolate spheroid. Come on. Prolate spheroid. Just rolls off the tongue. The center star, Oh, we lost it. The center star is actually larger than normal for a white dwarf. It's actually a very large white dwarf, one of the largest known, actually. And yeah, and it was actually Charles Messier that discovered it. So it's the first one to be discovered, and it was Messier's 27th, hence M27. Planetary nebula, it's the ongoing results of a dying star. So, you know, you look at a star that's dying that's got a mass past a certain mass limit, and it's got enough mass to be able to collapse on itself and explode into a supernova. You end up with a supernova remnant. But with planetary nebulae, it's basically just shedding and shedding and shedding until it dies. The star dies in the middle. You end up with a white dwarf. Gives off a little bit more, but what it's doing at that point, more than anything, is it's giving off the radiation to make the gas glow. And so this gas is being ionized, and it's glowing like you'd do with neon. And you know, that's how we see this, these nebulas that emit light. What is next, good sir?
One of my favorites, the bubble.
The bubble. Love the bubble. It's actually a bubble. Technically speaking, it's not a bubble, but it's basically the edge of radiation pressing against gas, where the gas is denser. So it's basically like snow piling up on the front of a snow plow. And so what we're basically seeing is a bubble that's basically just being blown. It's lighting up gas as it's going through space from its central star. And when I say central star, I don't mean the star that created it, but it's got a star that's basically the responsible star for putting off the radiation to make it glow. So when you've got that sort of object in the sky, when you've got that sort of gaseous structure in the sky that's being ionized, the gas is being ionized and it's glowing, we call that an emission nebula. So the bubble nebula, it's one of my favorites too. I love it. It really does look like a bubble. You kind of can't stop looking at it when you get a good picture of it, because it really does look like a big bubble in space. It's about 3 to 5 light years in diameter, and the star that's making this glow is emitting radiation coming off of the star at a speed of about 4 million miles an hour. So some pretty serious radiation there. Interestingly, once we get an image,
Yeah, we didn't want to do focus because that takes about 4 minutes.
the star that makes this nebula glow, it was born as a star about 60 times the mass of the sun. And what scientists have calculated based on the measurements of their observations, that it's calculated the star that's making the nebula glow. It's calculated to have lost about 1/4 of its total mass from just expelling So the software he's using is called NINA, Nighttime Imaging and Astronomy or something like that. NINA. And good stuff. It's a free program and probably one of the best acquisition software programs out there for using with astrophotography. It's pretty modular. It's fully programmable. Pretty cool software. I've been lazy. I want to start using it, but every time I get out there, it's like, well, it's dark, the sky's great, I'm set up. I need to just take pictures of stuff. I don't have time. I don't want to mess with changing software tonight. I want to image. And it is. Imaging is addictive. I mean, even if all you're doing is taking pretty pictures, you know, you can use your imaging rig to do science. You can actually take measurements as a what do they call it, a citizen scientist. There's only so many telescopes for professional astronomers to use. So
You can see the bubble starting to render here. That's a 30-second exposure.
right on. That's our first.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there it is. Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just waiting for it to transfer over.
see that? It almost looks metallic. That's the bubble. And yes?
And the stars are bit bloated because we're not focusing.
No, right on.
The focus run takes about 3 minutes. So.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, like once you focus once, you're kind of good to go for, you know, at least half an hour, 45 minutes.
This little cliff drop here is an indication that our back focus is way screwed up. So
Oh, okay.
we'll get it tightened up this weekend.
Right on. Come on, bubble. That ain't the bubble. The star that illuminates this bubble, once we see it again, the star is actually off center from the bubble, but it's only because there's just more density. I'm going to read it because it didn't make sense to me either. It is offset from the bubble's center because the side closer to the star is denser. Bubble. Yeah. Right there. Hello? So this gives me a lot to think about when it comes to December 21st when I'm standing up in front of an auditorium full of kids and their parents. We'll have to figure in things like how quickly we can get the stacks going and what all to say in between slewing and stuff. It's gonna end up being it's getting there a little bit. I think that's probably about as good as we get.
Okay, so the iris or the tulip?
Iris. Sorry. Actually, the tulip's really cool too. I don't know if we'll be able to pick it up, but there's actually in line of sight of the tulip is that black hole, Cygnus X1, you know, from the movie. And it's actually orbited by a blue supergiant. And this black hole is shooting off a jet off of its poles, and you can actually see, and I don't know if we'd be able to do it with EAA, but in, you know, a decent image, you can actually see a bow shock of these energetic particles from the black hole actually striking the interstellar medium. So you see this arc, and it's actually a bow shock that's being created by that interface with particles in that matter. It's really cool. It's like you can't see the black hole, but you can see what's coming out of the black hole hitting gas. It makes it a little more real. Iris Nebula. So we actually talked about this in when I featured Cepheus. So it's in the constellation of Cepheus, and this is not an emission nebula. This is pretty much purely a reflection nebula. So it's dust. You're not looking at gas that's getting ionized and glowing. You're looking at dust that's reflecting starlight. It's a beautiful nebula. It is a birthplace of stars. There's actually a blue giant in the middle of the nebula, and this one is actually visible in the eyepiece in a dark sky. You want a dark sky to be able to see this one, but it's just a beautiful nebula. It is part of the Cepheus flare molecular cloud, which also includes the nearby Ghost Nebula, which you'll actually see later in my What's in the Sky presentation. There we go. Our little blue giant there's kind of exposing pretty high. Are you able to do any sort of zoom into that? Or is it kind of is what it is?
Well, this is interesting. It's doing a
Oh, 120.
2-minute exposure, and the next one will be 30 seconds, but it'll be interesting to see what we do.
Gotcha. All right. So the Iris Nebula is about 6 light years in diameter, and it's got an open cluster inside. When I was talking about the inside of the nebula actually being a birthplace of stars, there's actually an open cluster inside of there. As far as the dust, I said there's a blue giant here, and that it's the blue giant's light that's being reflected off of the dust. Now, what do we know about dust when it comes to light is that it scatters blue light. So, like, there's another galaxy in line of sight that's probably might be in Cepheus. It's called IC 342, the Hidden Galaxy, and we are seeing that galaxy. We almost chose that as something to show, but we're looking at that galaxy through the dust in the Milky Way. And so we don't really see blue stars in that galaxy because the dust has scattered all the blue light and it reddens everything as it goes through. It's called extinction. So what we're seeing here is kind of the different part of that. So instead of seeing through the dust, we're actually seeing the effects of the dust reflecting the blue light. And so you've got this core of this nebula that's just glowing blue. It's quite beautiful nebula. There you go, champ. Start to get a little bit there. Start to get a little bit there. We've got some work to do, obviously, but it's a good start. Thanks for hanging with us.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When we're moving from, let's say, the bubble to this other last one that was the blue light thing, angularly in the sky, how far are we moving from left to right?
All right, let's see.
Down?
All right, so the bubble's in Cassiopeia, and the Iris Nebula is in Cepheus, and Cepheus is like adjacent to Cassiopeia. So it's pretty close in the sky. I mean, there are two constellations that are right close to each other to the north. Cepheus is Cassiopeia's husband.
So the movement time is a small percentage of this weight.
Absolutely. The weight really comes from the acquisition. What we're doing is we're setting the camera. Yes, sir. We're actually, the camera is taking a 30-second exposure, and then it's taking another 30-second exposure, and then stacking on top of that. So stacking might take a few seconds, but it's really the exposure time that really kind of creates the weight.
And that's what gets our amplitude up and our noise level down.
That's part of it. Another part of it is to be able to actually put what we call calibration frames into the software here. So the dark frames would be taking out that amp glow up on the top and on the bottom, and other noise that's created by pixels that don't play well with others, hot pixels, cold pixels, and then the other calibration frames like flat. You got a flat plugged into here?
Yeah, but Chris is
Yeah.
explaining to me that
Yeah.
we almost have to have master flats and master darks.
Yeah. Well, was this a single dark?
Yeah,
Yeah. And if it's not in real time this isn't a cooled camera, right?
it is.
It is a cooled camera. Oh, okay. Okay. Gotcha. So we want to do Cocoon, or we want to go to Deer Lick?
Let's do a galaxy.
Yeah, let's do Deer Lick. So this is a big slough. We are actually going from Cepheus, which is, I don't know, kind of above, where is it? It's kind of above Polaris right now. That you're slewing from that just about straight up to Pegasus. And this is a group of galaxies. One of them is a whole lot closer than the rest, but most of these are not interactive, but they are named the Deer Lick group because somebody that was on this mountain called Deer Lick decided to name it in the 80s. So that's why it's called Deer Lick, if anybody was curious. Yeah, when we see this galaxy, it's actually a really cool galaxy, and it actually shows a lot of signs of galactic collision. The galaxy in the front and the galaxies in the back, like I said, is all part of this group, but it's not actually a group of galaxies that are gravitationally interactive. But the little galaxies in the back, I'll wait until we actually get something. It look like we're pointed at it. If we were, you would definitely see it. There you go. All right. Let's get a few more there. that first shot is always like, okay, next shot, clean it up. So it's a really wonky galaxy. It's a spiral galaxy. It's an unbarred spiral galaxy, so it doesn't have that central bar, and the inner disk and the outer disk are not really at the same angle, so it's kind of offset a little bit. What's more is that you just start to see it. So here's the core right here, and the outer part of the galaxy. You know, when we get a few more in the stack here, we'll be able to really start to see it. But the inside core is rotating in one direction, and the outside of the galaxy is rotating in the opposite direction. And scientists say that that is a sure sign of a recent galactic collision, like catastrophic sort of collision. Even though when galaxies collide, and kids would love to hear this one, is that when galaxies collide, there's so much space in between everything in galaxies that the likelihood of anything actually hitting each other is very, very low, astronomically low.
When we're taking these pictures, are we tracking?
Yes, yes, yeah. So,
Servos or anything that
yeah,
in the picture?
they're motors. This would be a wire. I mean a worm gear that's running a circular gear. That's a common means of driving a mount. But yeah, these mounts, they've got 2 axes on them. The mount is actually aligned with the celestial pole, so really close to Polaris. And basically, it's able to go that way. So it's following the rotation of the sky.
Motorized polar mount.
Exactly. So unguided, mounts can track pretty well, but we are guiding, right? Yeah. So we're actually getting a little more precise with.
Yeah, and the bigger the mount, the heavier the equipment, even though it's balanced, and the longer the focal length, the less forgiving guiding is. So, we know we have a focus problem, and we were looking at this last night, and it took us a little while to figure out, not only do we have a focus problem, well, we're not guiding. It turns out we weren't, because we were getting streaks in the RA, so.
While we're waiting, can you show PhD 2?
Sure.
What's your question?
What galaxy was that right there?
Oh, this is the NGC 7331, and it,
Last image was also.
yeah, it's the same galaxy. So what we're seeing here is how the image quality progresses. Actually, stack more images.
I don't want to cause a problem, but is there any chance we could go to Stefan's quintet while we're right?
I looked at Stefan's quintet as an option, and it's gonna be pretty small.
Yeah, even in this scope, Bill looked at stuff through Telescopius, and I looked at stuff through the framing that's available in NEMA, which actually knows what the equipment is, and yeah, Stefan's, yeah, it's pretty small.
Yeah, you basically take the equipment that you've got and put it into software like Telescopius online, and put in the gear that you've got, and then it gives you a little frame that shows you what your camera would actually. So it's a framing tool. You're actually seeing, well, how's that object going to fit in the frame, and you can rotate it and stuff. So that's cool. There we go. Do you had something that was like closer or seemed like a better shot? We actually saw whatever you had before. There we go. Yeah. So now we're starting to, after some more stacking there, we're starting. That's just one sub? Oh, wow. Okay.
Adjust the sliders in the shortcut, Instagram.
Chris is telling me to get out of the way and let the expert do it.
Shove that black to the left.
Yes, there.
Midpoint slider.
Okay, so we're actually able to adjust the histogram.
Yeah, yeah.
Pull the black point down or something?
Yes, that vertical dash line on the left, move it much farther to the left, and then take that midpoint dash line and move it farther left.
Yeah. You want to take the black point all the way to 0.
Move that one.
Now you're going to go darker. Yeah, no, you want to go left with it.
Yeah, you can go left with both of them.
That white one should be all the way to the right. That one you're on needs to move all the way to right.
Yeah, that should be all the way to the right.
You mean to do it, buddy? I'm sorry. I kid. No. What's happening here is you've got this. You've got these 3 lines right here. So this is white level, okay, and this is black level here, and this is mid. So basically, you've got 3 adjustments that basically affect the curve of how the brightness of the image is distributed across the picture. It's just kind of a basic way of saying it. I don't know. Oh, it's not an easy hobby. There you go, pal. Now leave that alone and just pull the black point up a little bit. Oh, never mind. Okay. No, it's all good. So anyway, here's the galaxy, and you've got the inner side and the outer part of it, and they're rotating in the opposite directions. And then you see the little galaxies that are in the derelict, and they're actually referred to as the fleas, which is kind of a fun fact with that. This is a killer constellation to see in the eyepiece, especially at this time of year. It's just about straight up, so you're not looking through as much of the you're looking straight through the Earth's atmosphere. It's about 20% larger than the Milky Way, so it's about 120,000 light years in diameter, and yeah, so that's it. It's pretty bright. Did we want to hit anything else, or did anybody have any questions? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing the only way that the rotation direction would be different is galaxy interaction.
Yeah. Yeah. You see with galaxy interaction, you can see halos, you can see things like rotation situation like that. You can see starburst formation, because what is colliding with colliding galaxies isn't the stars and planets, but it's the gases that they hold. So you're basically got the pressure of 2 moving galaxies pushing their gases together, and that's where you start creating those seeds that basically promote star birth. Yeah, heavy. So when you see like bright areas of galaxies that have lots of blue stars, that's what's going on, is starburst formation. So there you go. Does anybody have any other questions? Or so that's remote EAA. It's a work in progress. Thank you to Jim McCatherine and Bob Circus for all the sweat and tears, maybe even a little blood that they've put into making this happen. And yeah, we're just getting started. You know, we get more used to it. I mean, here we're just operating on the prayer that it works, and hereafter it starts becoming a little more familiar. I love the fact that as a club, for anybody that is interested in being able to remotely control a telescope over the internet, this is an awesome opportunity to be able to be up close to a remote setup and to be able to really understand how it's done. So I look forward to that immensely. So there you go, Bob and Jim. So I guess we're going to take a break, and we'll resume in 10 minutes with the raffle and then what's in the sky. Watch your eyes. Goggles on. Like I said, I'm doing good from where I am. Yeah, something a little more efficient. I thought about that. I wish we were able to see the comet. I wish we were able to see the comet. Yeah, it was too low. Well, we're just worried about the swing. Gotcha. What do you think anything about well, I was looking for children's. One of us is saying here, I don't know what this is, but there needs to be a second. It's all the bad stuff. The background stuff is kept on that, checked it out. And the thing that's actually doing the images, it's collecting it, so set on the one that is being projected up on whatever it is. Oh yeah, we've got a big thing on the screen. The audience, yeah. The idea was also that I was thinking run from the polarity. Perhaps polarity up there so that you can see the telescope slowed. But as far as, I mean, what do you see? Yeah, no, I mean, I just, for kids, watching, I mean, talk about freezing them. That's a real punishment. While all the active forward, this is the key is the defense on technical concepts don't want to see that, but you know, not kids. So the fact that you see that it's going to show the capture software and whatnot, it has to maybe some things on private screen, but this screen,
my presentation, standard thing, so you've got the added complication of it happening in the, but, you know, while you're suing, that takes so much time. You kind of watch, you know, what's going on right now, you get all the stuff that starts, it's not a program to start.
works. Well, I wanted to show everybody the first prize that we're going to give away in tonight's raffle. It's this 20-pound coffee table book, and it's by Cosmos. Does it say anybody else? The name of it is Cosmos. It's actually 20 pounds. So the first person who has a chance at the raffle to take away that book, the last four numbers are 6941. The last four numbers are 6941. Yay! Oh, man.
Nice!
Yeah. Here you go.
Okay,
And the cover.
Now you need a bigger
And the ticket.
okay.
All right. Okay, the next winner has the option of picking one of the next two books. And the last four digits are 6948. 6948. You could, or you could wait until next into January and have a pick of any of the books that are there.
I mean, I do kind of want another book, and
She did, and what I'm trying to offer her is a choice of another book in January.
I'm not going to be here in January.
February, I'll give you two books.
I'm moving away in January.
Oh, well then come up. So 6948. Open it up. And look, there's no pictures.
Oh, no. Dang.
Don't read it here, take it home.
Sorry.
48. Thank you. Confirmed, 6948. And the last raffle prize tonight is a book by Timothy Ferris, and it's 6959. It's Michelle. Now you have to take it home. Okay.
I'll have to get a coffee table.
We can do
There,
it.
oh, there you go. All right, so we normally have more prizes to choose from, and I've told a few people here today that the additional prizes that we had planned for tonight are sitting on my kitchen table, and I apologize for that. I will bring them as well as others at the next meeting in January.
So for all of you that like hearing my voice, you're in for a treat. Thank you. All right, so being that we kind of did the tour of stuff in the sky in the presentation, we're just going to talk about events. And so this is all the celestial events for the next 2 months. Since we've got the Christmas party next month, this is for stuff all the way to January 21st of next year. So next slide. Remember I was talking about the Ghost Nebula? Aptly named. This is George Lutch's beautiful capture of the Ghost Nebula. Yeah. All right, so next slide. Way to go, George. So, this is Christian Senzik's image of the comet, the big one, if you've heard about it. Anybody heard about the comet? So it's still in the sky, it's dimming, it's in Serpens right now, and it's, it's gonna be magnitude 9 soon enough, never to be seen again. Next slide. By the way, what is it, 2024 S1? Did anybody see that comet? All right, moving on, because I didn't. Boy, that was, that's an example of hype that doesn't play out. So, occultations and close approaches, there's actually a lot of cool stuff happening as far as that's concerned. Wednesday, November 27th, the moon, occult spica. The moon and Saturn are 18 minutes apart on December 8th. Also on December 8th, the moon and Saturn are still at 18 minutes apart. So that happened. Monday, January 13th. Lunar occultation of Mars. So that's kind of cool. What we've got here is on November 10th. Is it on November 10th? Yeah. So Steve Yates took a picture of Saturn up there. Real picture there. Next slide. Okay. So this hadn't blown up yet. We still have that recurrent nova that's just any minute now sort of situation. And you can see its first observation of it, second observation of it, and any minute now. Don't hold your breath, but as a reminder, it basically is expected to go from magnitude 10.8 to magnitude 3 or 2. So this isn't like the comet. This is actually documented, something that's happened before. So this isn't hype. This is actually going to happen. But we'll have a star, a naked eye star up here in the sky for a little while. Next slide. Titan shadow transits. So we are coming up on springtime on Saturn. And so, or fall, I guess, depending on what side of Saturn you're on. And so it's not great timing for us with these. It's sort of I guess, a different part of being, different place on Earth where this stuff actually works out in a viewer's favor. But so that means that all these shadow, Titan doesn't just, Titan shadow and Titan itself doesn't just go across Saturn all the time. It's a certain time of year for Saturn, which orbits the sun every 29 years. So you're talking about 2 of those times that you see this sort of stuff. So it's all in the daytime, but to give you some hope, this is an actual daytime picture of Saturn, so it can be done. All right, next slide. New moon is on Sunday, December 1st. Next slide. Jupiter, it's a beautiful picture. Oh my gosh. Jupiter opposition is on December 7th, and will be as close to Jupiter as will be all year long, and Jupiter will be up in the sky all night long. This actually happens to be from JunoCam, Perigove 22. I don't know how many total orbits it's going to have, but it's in process. This is actually from September 12th, 2019. Blue, so I'm expecting something I've not seen before, so it's obviously a polar shot with all the little clouds and stuff. It's really great. What a great time to be alive. Next slide. The Geminids meteor shower, of course, showing my videos. The best thing I've ever done with a meteor shower is this video. And it's not going to be a better video this year if I make one, because it's just about to be full moon, it's 13-day-old moon, 99% illumination, but I have seen the Geminids in a bad moon situation like this, and I took a stand and put this little piece of cardboard there to like block all the ambient light from the moon, and I laid there all night long, and it was still a great meteor shower. So don't let the moon sway you from freezing your tail off. Sir? Yeah, that's Oculus, 150-degree Oculus by Starlight, Oculus. Next slide. Starlight Express. Full moon is December 15th, and this is actually a picture from Jim McCatherine of the moon. Next slide. And then we're in our sweet spot of the year, 21st of December, longest night of the year, 14 hours and 1 minute of night. Next slide. Mercury in the morning. So we've got a greater western elongation on December 25th. So Merry Christmas. And it'll be 22 degrees up above the horizon, which is actually pretty good. Pretty good height, certainly better than it's been for some of the other elongations this year. So check that out, and it actually might even be a good imaging opportunity if you're, don't have anything else to do on Christmas Day. Morning, no less. Next slide, so never mind. And there's the Quadrantids meteor shower, named after Quadrans Moralis, which is an obsolete constellation that's now part of Botus. And we get about, this is not the Geminids, but it's pretty darn good. About 40 in a dark sky, you get about 40 meteors an hour, and we're talking about Friday night, January 3rd through the morning of the 4th. It's got a 4-day-old moon and a moon set at 9:44, so we're actually in good shape for this one. Next slide. Venus in the evening. So this doesn't happen as frequently, but it's Venus is at greater eastern elongation on Friday, January 10th. It's going to be almost 40 degrees up from the horizon at sunset. So then this is Patrick McMahon's picture of Venus as a crescent. Next slide. Ah, yes, an 887 Melinda. You heard about this? You know about this? So anyway, it's an asteroid, some random asteroid that's coming relatively close to us. I find these when I actually, when I'm making these things, I look at the couple of sites that talk about near-Earth objects. And if I see something that's brighter than magnitude 10, and maybe something that actually has the potential, 12 million miles from Earth, has the potential to be able to look out in the eyepiece and see it move and be like, that's an asteroid in space, and I'm watching it move across the sky, if you're like really patient, but it's neat anyway. So it's shining at just under 10, and it'll be its brightest on January 12th. Passes closest to us on January 8th, so we're probably going to see the most of the motion on that night. So kind of cool. And no, of course you haven't heard about this. So yeah, there you go. Next slide. Full moon in January is on January 13th. And this is extreme close-up by Robert Cargill. Next slide. And Mars at opposition, once again. So this only happens every 2 years. I've got a video in a second that actually shows that, so you can actually visually understand why it's every 2 years. It's like, well, Earth's going around the sun, and Mars is going around the sun. Why isn't it once every year? Well, there's a reason for that, and you'll see. It's closest to us on January 16th. What I already said here, and it's not the closest it will be. It'll start moving closer after 2027. So we've got a little wait for the bigger Mars, but this is what's happening then. And next slide. So here's that video.
Opposition occurs just as Earth takes the lead. Because planetary orbits are elliptical, not all oppositions are the same. In 2003, Earth made its closest pass by Mars in 50,000 years, when it passed just 34.6 million miles away. During this year's opposition, Mars will pass only 47 million miles away. The next opposition, in 2018, will be even closer, at 35.8.
So it's an older video, and I had my audio off on my computer when I found this. I didn't know we were going to have talkie-talkie. So, yeah, I don't know if you saw that before, but basically that it actually takes 2 years, 2 times that the Earth goes around the sun to actually catch up with Mars again. So that's why. Now you know. Next slide. And here are the oppositions for Mars, the aforementioned several years ago, and we are right here. So the furthest ends up being 2027, and then we start getting shorter and shorter until we get to the glorious mid-30s when we actually can get rather close up with Mars, relatively speaking. Next slide. And that's it. This is Christopher Ashford's Lion Nebula. And yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to just keep it off. Since there's like slides and stuff, I think, maybe.
All right, let's go through the announcements, or the monthly report, starting with the announcements. What I meant to say, let's start with the monthly reports and announcements. No, I'm trying to get used to the mic, sorry.
All right, we're starting the meeting over.
In the beginning. That comes at the business meeting, the next section. All right, so yeah, let's start with announcements and go to the next slide. So I did want to make an announcement that the club was offered a great deal. It was actually the 3RF astronomy library was offered to the club. I responded that we were also we were very much interested in taking this donation, which amounted to 570 astronomy and related books. But I told them that we don't have any physical buildings. We don't have a place to put a library. So we would be using these books as outreach, giving them to smaller libraries around the DFW area and in the Eastland County area, as well as doing giving books away at the raffle and some other activities. So that's a possibility, and it turns out many libraries have rules for accepting books. The library in Aledo, for instance, they won't accept any book that's older than 5 years. Kind of interesting. I tried to explain that astronomy hasn't changed much in the last 200, but that didn't sway them. But it depends. So yeah, we're interested in using these books as outreach, getting them out to the public, getting them out to individuals that would like to use them. So the big issue was how do we transport these 12 books back from the 3RR area? And we came up with 4 vehicles that actually made the transition from our weekend activities on that Sunday, and we brought them all back. The lion's share of them were in Tom Roth's truck. I don't know how he got them all in there, but we got them here. And then we were looking at a couple of places here in the area where we temporarily store them so we could sort them and have ready access to them. None of those areas options came through, so we're now storing most of them in the astronomy side of the 40-foot container. But it's a very exciting opportunity, and we were more than happy to take the books for outreach activities. Any other questions on this? Okay, let's move on. Hearing none, let's move on. Next slide. Patrick.
Okay, so here's the last bit of star parties for the year. So tomorrow now we got Bowie High School. It's one we've done before. Got a couple people for that. Thursday over at Diamond Hill, which is about 10 minutes, 15 minutes from here, have a star party. We'd like somebody to at least set up by 5:30. And they're asking if possible we could hook up if we have any way of doing any visual, hook it up to like a projector. So if anybody's got that, that'd be great. If not, no worries. But they seem super excited. They're expecting about 70 kids. I got an email from them today and their family, so we should have a good turnout there. Next slide. So I guess you're dealing with that one, okay?
Let me take that. So I've been working with the Cross Plains Public Library to set up a solar observing day. We actually did a presentation about the sun back in October, and then we were going to follow it up with solar observing, but by the time we got done with the presentation and went outside, clouds had moved in, and the kids and the adults were pretty sad. So we're having a makeup this Saturday from 2 to 4:30. And then we're also just going to stay around and give them a star party from 5:30 to 8:30. Thank God the sun sets so early and we can give them a star party and then drive home. So we're happy about that. The cool part is for the people that came to the presentation back in October, I'd say we had 40, maybe 50 people there. They were very much interested in astronomy. Many had telescopes. Nearly all of them needed help using their telescopes, but they were just fascinated with astronomy. So it was pretty interesting.
And then the same day, we have our next Dinosaur Valley State Park star party. That's always a good one, and weather's looking good for that. Let's see, we got on December 3rd, we have one up in Fort Worth, school there. And then we got some Boy Scouts on December 7th. I'd already sent an email about that. They will send me the location as we get closer. They did ask that if we're going to help out with the Boy Scouts, you got to be certified. You got to kind of have to do a background check, so I'll send a link out for that. Next. And then we got Lamar High School on the 13th. Got Lance Thompson over in Argo. That's one we've done before on the 17th of December. And let's see. And then the last Dinosaur Valley Star Party will be December 21st. And then we also got one, if you don't want to go out to Glen Rose over here in Fort Worth, one of our members is organizing one, Charlie Ford, so we got that there. And that's it. I'd like to thank everybody who's helped out with the star parties and look forward to next year.
Thank you, Patrick. Say John with the Tandy Hills report.
I'd like to thank everybody that made the Tandy Hills Star Party season of 2024 a smashing success. And we're going to start up again 2025 in March. Our attendance this year was higher than the last 2 years. Fortunately, we did not have any rain during any of the star parties, so we had all 9 of them make, unlike the last few years. So back in March of 2025, we'll start up again.
Thank you, John. I see that. Now?
Next slide. All right, so next Tuesday, we're going to have the young astronomers at the Bedford YMCA. We're going to do a class on meteor showers. And Bill already talked about the meteor showers coming up. The Gemini is going to be a little tough, but the quadrant should be pretty exciting. Nice moon that night, so looking forward to that. So we're going to tell them how to do that. Working with Chris to maybe get some of his meteorites to show at this as well. I got a couple to show as well. And then in December, we're not having a class, but I remember last year we had a party on New Year's Eve, just kind of a star party out there. We will talk to them next week about trying to set something up. And then we'll restart the classes sometime in the spring. We'll talk about that at the board meeting in January, what we want to do. Yeah. So, John, when did you start the Tandy Hills? What you started in March? Yeah, that's why we were thinking the same thing with the young astronomers, because give the class, but getting out and seeing things are the fun stuff. Questions? All right.
Thank you.
That's just his flyer.
Oh. Very good. Bob.
So we did our last 1687 star party 2 weeks ago for the Pink Beret. It went off really well. They were a hoot. So UFO conspiracy theorists and all, but it was a great time. And we look forward to picking up again in the spring. And we're working with the board trying to come up with some more efficient options to build a cadre. So, thanks.
Michelle?
Rising Star Observing Area. Bruce has done a good job at keeping you updated on that with a couple of emails. He and Tom and Charlie, is there anybody else? The 3 of them have been out there several times. We now have a wall in between the storage area and the sleeping area in the 40-foot. It actually took, it seems like quite a bit of work to get it in there, but they did a good job at getting that in. And I think we're going to be working on some upgrades on some of the locks for the sleeping quarter doors in another couple of weeks when we go out there. While I'm up here on Palo Pinto Mountain State Park, which is the next one, Tom is out of town. They have started asking for volunteers. Those of you who are members of the state park partners have probably seen those emails. So they're starting to get the final clearing of the trails, getting that ready for the opening next year. And again, for those of you who are members or would want to be members of the Parks Partners Foundation, the general meeting, the annual general meeting is in January. I don't have a specific date, but I'll get that for you and let you know. We normally have a meeting where they update us on everything current for the state park, and they take us on a hike through the park. So.
Thank you. So now we need to know if George is online today. So George, do you have an update on the website and the media?
Website, we're working on DNS entries to see if we can get those ported over from the old website to the new. And as far as the newsletter, again, anybody has any articles or pictures that they would like to submit, just hand them over to me via my email, glutch@gmail.com, and I'll get them into the newsletter.
Very good, thank you. So moving to the business meeting portion of tonight's, here's the treasurer.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Just very briefly, we're currently at a balance of about $40,591, up from $35,916 last time we reported. We've had a couple of interesting transactions, a wonderful $3,000 donation from a member, also another $1,500 Star Party. We appreciate those. Our expenses, $6,200. That's primarily us repaying part of the Rising Star loan, and we'll continue to do that as we can. On the bottom half of the page, we have a summary of where we stand with regards to the development of Rising Star. We have about $6,300 there right now. We need to reserve some of that for completing the Phase 2 improvements. We also need to save some money for the upcoming payment in April and May, and then funds beyond that will be able to continue repaying the loan. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Constantine. Do we have a report from legal or infrastructure?
Next slide.
Oh, next slide. Oh, there we go.
Next slide. I'll say, so according to the bylaws, the officers and directors went through the bylaws and we talked about some changes at the last meeting, and I'll do some consolidation on them, bring back the board, and then we'll bring them back to the club in February, put them in prime focus, and vote in May or early May or April. One of the things we were looking at, just to let you know, is each of the directors are going to get some type of a oversight. Somebody will be in charge of membership, somebody will be in charge of social media, not to try and take away from the committee members we have, but they'll just kind of be the honcho, hey, the board decided we want to do something, so they'll be getting with, like, if it's membership, they'll get with the membership committee and make sure that's happened. So that's one of the duties on that. I'll defer to Stephen on the other two issues, and he's got something else to talk about after that anyway, so.
So next up is Stephen Kennedy.
Hello, everyone. So we now have an insurance policy in place for the board of directors. So if anything should happen and the club gets sued and the board of directors get sued, they'll have a policy behind them. We also have a trademark application on file that I filed for the organization back in August, and that trademark is on this little logo right here on my shirt, if you can see that. And that trademark application probably will be processed at some point in 2025, we hope. Okay, then I have, if we go to the next slide, I think, a little report for you on our two policies, the recreational vehicle policy and the dog policy, two policies in which there is absolutely no controversy whatsoever, right? So I'll give you my little report on that. If we go to the next slide, as you know, the current policy for dogs is no dogs are allowed except for the neighbor dogs, which trespass throughout our land all the time. Okay, next slide. And the current policy for recreational vehicles, no RVs allowed, but we still have loud, smelly gas generators anytime, right? All right, next slide. So my assignment was to come up with a way in which we can roll out policies to allow people to take their dogs and allow people to have a recreational vehicle and take it to the property and enjoy it, and at the same time have roll this out in such a way that we hopefully do not have any liability to the club or the organization and its members. So I've come up with a solution for that. We have a beta program, which we are starting very soon, any day now. We just need to assign a coordinator for that, and the board is looking at the individuals who would be best suited for that, and that'll be announced sometime very soon. But here's the policy that we're going to roll out for the next 5 months. We're going to have a policy that will allow RVs and will allow people to bring their dogs to the site under certain circumstances. But the members who want to do that will have to sign a contract with the organization. So if we go to the next slide here, so we're going to have 2 contracts, one for people who want to have an RV and take it to the property, and one for people who want to take their dog, right? And in order for a contract to be valid and enforceable, both sides to the contract have to give something. One person has to give something to the other, right? So for example, for the RV policy, the club is providing a lease to the member for a couple of days in which they can take their RV to the property and use it. Same kind of concept for the dog policy. The club will be granting permission to the club member to take their dog to the property. So the club is giving something of value to the club member. If we hit the next slide, then what we need in order for these agreements to be valid, the member has to give something back to the organization. So for the RV policy, the member is going to pay $20 for the right to take their RV to the policy for no more than 3 consecutive days during 1 week. And you might ask, well, why is it $20? Well, that's about half or even less than half of what they would pay if they were to go to a campground site in just about any other location. Same general concept for dogs. In order for the member to take their dog to the site, they're going to contribute $10 or pay $10 for the right to have the dog on the site. Now, what this buys us, once we've got these terms in place, then we can legally enforce terms and conditions in that contract which dictate when, where, how, and under what circumstances the dog can be taken and the RV can be taken. So we go to the next slide. We're going to dictate or be able to tell people where they can park the RV. And that's going to need to be in the back, right? Next slide. And here's where the RVs are going to be parked. Again, this is a beta program. I fully expect that we're going to experiment with this. Maybe we don't need all of this space for RVs, or maybe this will be the right amount of space. Maybe we need to reconfigure it a little bit. That's why it's a beta program, and we're going to experiment with this over the next 5 months to see what is best. Okay, next slide. And then the next question is, well, what about generators? Because they're loud and they're noisy and sometimes smelly, and a lot of people don't like it, right? So the key term here is going to be no, I say no loud generators, actually no generators at all, loud or quiet, will be on after astronomical dark. They just go off. And the only exception will be is if something happens during the night that's totally unexpected, such as the weather changes, right? And it's gone, it was supposed to be, 50 degrees and suddenly it's 20, wait 5 minutes in Texas, the weather will change. So under those circumstances, it's unreasonable to say we're going to make those people in the RVs freeze to death, so we're going to let them turn their generators on so that they can stay warm, all right? But the general rule is they got to be boondocked, is what I understand the terminology to be. No generator after astronomical dark until sunrise the next day. Okay, next. The other key terms are, okay, so the size limit, 40 feet, a white light suppression, I think the better word is mitigation. We're not going to be able to completely, stop white light from emitting from these vehicles, but we have to try to keep it under control as much as possible. Another term, a key term, and this is one of the most important things, if there's some kind of catastrophe, the person with the RV is not going to sue the organization if the RV is damaged on the site. So if it gets stuck in the mud and they need to hire a tow truck to pull it out, they're not going to be able to sue the club or its members or the board because their RV got stuck in the mud, all right? And same in reverse, however, if the RV harms someone or breaks some equipment for someone, the club member who has signed this contract is saying they will be liable for the damages that their RV causes, all right? Very important, because we've got to protect the members and the club itself. All right. Then another key term, which I think is something that's necessary. I don't want to see the club get sued in Eastland County over, any disputes regarding these agreements, the RV agreement especially. So I've included a term, an enforceable term, that says any disputes regarding the contract will be resolved in arbitration, which is much quicker, much less expensive, and much more efficient, and, in my view, much more predictable than a jury system, all right? Okay, next slide. The dog agreement. All right, the dog has to be on a leash, no more than 6 feet long if it's being walked around the property. You can't have your dog unattended. That makes perfect sense. And the dog needs to be kept in a contained or secured area. No noisy dogs. And again, you cannot sue the club if the dog is injured on the site. And if the dog harms someone else or breaks somebody's equipment, that club member is going to be responsible for all damages caused by the dog. And once again, any dispute involving the dog will be resolved in arbitration. Hopefully none of that will ever come into play, but you have to think through all these possible ramifications and plan for them. That way they'll never happen, right? Okay, so this ends my, my PowerPoint program. So here's how I view this program going forward. We'll identify the right person to be the coordinator for these projects. The contract will be on, both of the contracts will be on the IO sites for you to download, and I'll also email them to everybody as well. So if you want to, you can just download them and have them on your computer. And how I envision this working is when you want to take your RV or your dog to the site, you'll fill out the form, fill out the contract, sign it, and email it to the club coordinator and pay your little fee using Zelle to the organization. Then the RV or dog coordinator will then assign you a spot where you're going to park your RV, and all will be well, and you can have your RV on the site for up to 3 straight days. And same thing with your dog. If there's any problems involving this, the coordinator will tell the board, and we'll make adjustments to how we're rolling this out so that we can efficiently and quickly respond so that everything works, as well as we possibly can. That way, in 5 or 6 months from now, when it's time for us to pay our membership fee, right, and it's time to renew and pay your fee, we hope to end the beta program and say, okay, now we know how this works. Now we're going to make it quote unquote permanent. And what you'll be able to do, if you want to, if you're an RV owner and you like the idea of using this frequently, we're going to give you the option to, as part of your agreement, sign up for an annual plan so that you can pay for the entire year. You know, maybe it may be 50 or $100. We haven't decided yet. But you'll be able to pay for the entire year one time. You sign the contract once, and then you can take your RV as many times as you want. And you'll just need to notify the coordinator so he or she can assign a spot for you to park your RV. Same thing with the dog policy. You'll be able to have one fee, pay it on an annual basis, and take your dog out there as many times as you want, so long as you tell the RV coordinator so that the RV coordinator can coordinate. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. Any questions? I know there will be. Bob?
So, not to raise a stink, but you're going to include picking up after your dog?
Yes, as part of the contract, people have to clean up after the dog, and they have to take the waste with them as they leave. They're not leaving it with the site. Any other questions? All right, so again, we're going to have to kind of just see how this works. If it's just a minor violation, you know, the coordinator will probably just tell you, don't do that again, or you need to stop doing that. But you're right. I mean, if they're doing things that are not appropriate, running their generator when they shouldn't be, or if there's too much white light coming from their RV that it's disturbing people, well, yeah, this is going to be a problem, and they may be asked to leave the park right then, okay? So it'll be up to the coordinator on a case-by-case basis, given the how serious the situation is, to make a decision how they're going to resolve that issue. But ultimately, yes, you're right. They may just tell them, you're banned, you can't bring your RV back, and too bad, so sad. If you paid $25 or $20, it's just the way it is. Yeah, we're gonna test this out during the next 5 or 6 months, but yes, that's what we're going to do.
Rub
Yes,
their
ma'am.
nose in it.
I didn't hear her.
Does it include a frog?
Does it include a frog?
Right. Is it a pet or just a dog?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's dog policy only, yeah, no frogs. Sorry. I would be afraid of what might happen to your frog, okay? I mean, another dog might eat the frog, I don't know. All right, next, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Does this now include all generators, like all portable generators as well?
Very good question, sir. No, this does not, and although I think it should, when that's up for the board to do on another day, is to decide what we're doing for individual standalone generators. I have my feelings on what that should be, but the board will need to act on that, hopefully at the next meeting, which will be in January 2025, I believe. Okay? All right, any other questions? All right, I got off easy. Haha. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, to the point where any other business for tonight's meeting? Yes, we have.
Oh, wait, it's next slide. It's the next slide. Yeah.
Oh, it's the next one.
I'm gonna sit up. Patience.
All right, let's go to the next slide.
Ta-da.
Very good. So in December, instead of having a normal meeting, we were going to meet at Spring Creek Barbecue in their private dining room in Bedford, Texas. So when you arrive at the restaurant, go ahead and come to the private dining area so we can all gather together, and then we'll go through the line to get our food at 5 o'clock. Then after that, we're going to have a voluntary white elephant gift exchange and just go through that process. And I think I went to my first Christmas party last year, and it was a hoot. And many of the gifts were astronomy related, but others weren't. I walked away with a screwdriver set, which I was happy to have. I think I did make a young boy cry as I took something from him, but I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to take a prize from anybody younger than 20.
Then I took it back.
I tried when someone took the whiskey.
Oh, okay, so alcohol has been exchanged. So there's a wide variety of gifts that are you see during the gifts exchange. So once again, it's Spring Creek Barbecue in Bedford on the 14th at 5 o'clock. And get there a little bit early so we'll know you're there. Any questions?
You won't be missing anything with the Cowboys, that's for sure.
Good point.
Bruce?
Yes?
Will it be a silent auction as well like last year?
We had not considered that until Robert Cargill brought it to my attention that he's already made a contraption that he wants to put in there. So if we do go forward with that, I will make an announcement to the club. But thank you for bringing that up. Any other comments or questions? Let's go to the next slide. Do we normally have an idea what's happening at the next meeting in January, or are we just going to wait on that?
Oh, no. Yeah, no.
Okay, very good. So just a note that some people do get together at the social house after the meeting. So I understand the craft beers and non-alcoholic beverages are good. Next slide. So that's it. So I appreciate you coming tonight, and we'll hopefully see you at the holiday party in December. Oh, yeah.
Say if anybody's going to this social house program,
Oh.
you can get your car parking validated. You only get your car towed if you park in the parking lot.
Okay, so you can get your parking receipt validated? Okay. So very good. So raise of hands, how many people are going tonight? All right, sounds good. Save some money. All right, y'all be careful and have a safe drive home.